Fantasy football has become just as mainstream, if not more mainstream, than the NFL itself in recent years. Millions of football fans around the country will look to draft the perfect team in order to win their league and earn bragging rights, and even sometimes a little extra cash. With that being said, everyone wants that extra edge or insight to try and find quality picks in the later rounds of the draft to make their team the very best of the best. Welcome back to our channel, where today we're going to be going over the top 5 sleeper fantasy picks for the 2022 NFL fantasy football season. Keep in mind, these are in no particular order, so sit back and enjoy. At number 5 is James Cook, running back for the Buffalo Bills. Cook was drafted 63rd overall in the 2022 NFL Draft out of Georgia, and he can add even more power to an explosive Bills offense. The Bills were ranked 3rd in the NFL last season in touchdowns and had the league's highest graded rushing attack. The Bills' top rushers last season were Devin Singletary and their quarterback Josh Allen, surprisingly. They also added Duke Johnson in the offseason, but Cook is still in a great spot to succeed. The Bills haven't had a clear-cut starting running back in several years, dating back to C.J. Spiller in the early 2010s and LaShawn McCoy in the late 2010s, and Cook will have a massive opportunity to rise above the rest. His unique skill set will allow him to flourish in one of, if not the most dangerous offense in the NFL. Cook is a running back who can be a threat in the passing game, something the Bills could use desperately. Buffalo's not had a single running back receive over a 65 receiving grade since 2019. Luckily for the Bills, Cook can be a home run in the passing game, as he was used a lot in Georgia's offense with his ability to blow past nearly every linebacker that was matched up against him. Cook can easily surpass Singletary in terms of fantasy production, as Singletary has finished as RB 41 and 31 in the past 2 seasons. As of now, Cook is being drafted around the same time as Melvin Gordon and his teammate in Singletary. Cook is certainly more of a risky pick, but if everything goes right, he can be a low-end RB2 and take over the starting role in Buffalo. At number 4 is Rondale Moore, wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. There's a fairly simple case for Rondale Moore as a potential sleeper pick. The Cardinals will be without star receiver DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 weeks of the season due to violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy. This means that Arizona's wide receiver core will consist of AJ Green, Marquise Brown, and Rondale Moore, allowing all 3 receivers to get their fair share of looks. Moore will most likely operate from the slot, which is where the Cards will want him to operate from in the first place. Arizona's slot receiver last year in Christian Kirk put him the 3rd most yards from the slot in the entire league, and now he's off to Jacksonville, leaving Moore to hopefully match or increase that level of production. In his first 2 games as a slot receiver, Moore put up 35.2 fantasy points, yet he struggled to stay at a consistent level and lost his spot on the depth chart. Moore has come into this season and says he expects to play at a much higher level than he did for the majority of last season and believes that he can beat Kirk's production. Moore is currently being drafted as a wide receiver 5, but he could definitely be a very solid flex player on the bench and could potentially stick as a wide receiver 2 or 3 once Hopkins comes back if Moore keeps his slot role. At number 3 is Sky Moore. Sky Moore was one of the best receivers in last year's draft class, and he was drafted by an extremely talented offense that just happened to lose their star receiver in the offseason. The Kansas City Chiefs drafted Moore with the 54th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, and he gets to join one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs will be running a much different receiving core, as they've lost 53% of their targets from last season, losing Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, and Byron Pringle. They're looking to replace those losses with the additions of Juju Smith-Schuster and, of course, Sky Moore. Juju will likely fill in as the second option behind Travis Kelce, who's coming off an injury-shortened season. When Juju was in the lineup, he played some of the worst football of his whole career. He's only on a 1-year deal as well, with little room to develop, and it's quite possible to see Moore become the wide receiver 2 by season's end. The Chiefs' receiving room as a whole is quite intriguing. Guys like Mecole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Josh Gordon are more so boom-or-bust receivers and most likely won't be contending for a consistent role on offense. Hardman has played with Mahomes for 3 years, and Valdes-Scantling was giving a 3-year, $30 million deal. Yet if the Chiefs had so much confidence in these guys, why would they go out and draft Moore in the 2nd round? Especially when he was dropping down draft boards. Moore is a receiver with incredible upside, and considering he's only played the position for a few years, the Chiefs must be banking on him to break out. Moore will most likely start this season as a wide receiver 3 with massive potential, and he should be someone that you draft with a lot of confidence in the mid to late rounds. Next up, at number 2, is Albert Okwuegbunam, tight end for the Denver Broncos. The Broncos' offense is going to look very different this upcoming season, especially with the addition of star quarterback Russell Wilson in one of the biggest trades in NFL history. One of the main pieces that was sent the other way was the Broncos' starting tight end in Noah Fant, leaving Albert Okwuegbunam as the main man for the orange and blue. It's been quite some time since Wilson has had a great connection with one of his tight ends, which is most likely due to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett becoming the top guys in Seattle. Yet Albert O showed a massive amount of promise in a very small sample size. He had the third highest yards after catch among tight ends and ran a 4.49 40, which was in the 98th percentile. Albert O averaged 7.4 yards after the catch and led all tight ends in that category. His 3.8 yards per route versus man coverage also led all tight ends last season. Bringing in a top-tier quarterback in Russell Wilson to complement their weapons in Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy is exactly what the Broncos needed. Opposing secondaries are going to have to be weary of those two threats at wideout, leaving Okwuegbunam wide open in a perfect position to run checkdown routes and gain huge chunks of yardage. As the season continues to progress, don't be surprised to see the huge tight end get more and more targets each week. If he can convert those targets into touchdowns, he can easily shoot up the fantasy leaderboards and finish as a top 10 tight end. He could be a fantastic late draft option. And at number 1 is Jameis Winston. Winston's coming off a brutal ACL injury, yet before his injury, he put up very surprising numbers. He averaged 17 fantasy points per game and finished as the QB 14 on the year, even though he missed a huge chunk of the season. He also led the Saints to a 5-2 record in that span. This year, the Saints will have a vastly improved offense with a revitalized wide receiver core. New Orleans snagged one of the best receivers in the entire class in Chris Olave and are looking forward to the return of Michael Thomas after his ankle injury sidelined him for the entirety of last season. Add the addition of Jarvis Landry to the list, and the Saints have one of the more promising receiver corps in the whole league. With a very strong receiving room, Winston could elevate his game to a whole new level, something he nearly saw him do last season with barely any weapons. Coming off a season that saw his lowest interception percentage of his career, Winston seems to finally be showing the promise that everyone thought he would show as a number 1 overall pick. Winston is a perfect pick for someone who needs a QB2 in the late rounds, and the significantly improved receiver room should help Winston become a relevant quarterback in both the NFL and fantasy football. The NFL season is right around the corner, and several fantasy drafts have already gone underway for fantasy football owners. For those who haven't drafted yet, hopefully this list can get your team to go from great to the best in your league. If you do end up winning your league, of course, we expect some sort of shout out for helping construct your roster. But with that, that's the end of today's video, so thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss another video. We'll see you guys next time.